The God Moment. Written and voiced by Marcus T. Anthony. Hugh Anderson opened his eyes. His large home office came slowly into soft focus. This was his space, his little world where he both lived and worked in bustling Shanghai. Alone. La, net system activate, please. There was a slight whirring as the lights flickered on and the wall opposite his bed came to life. La 3000, his home computer system, was awake too. La, Huya mail, thanks. Being a little old-fashioned, Anderson had stuck to Huya through thick and thin over the years, even after it had changed its name from Yahoo, and even despite the burgeoning of other email services. Hugh Anderson was a little blurry-eyed that morning on account of his having consumed a bottle of cheap 7-Eleven wine the evening before. He did not even bother to read the mail headings on the screen. In fact, the first thing he noticed was the time, 10:23 a.m. Shit! He realised he'd been sleeping for over 7 hours. As the director of Foresight Media, he had subsisted on an average of 4 hours a night for over a decade. Now he was running late, very late. He sat up, propping himself on his pillow. La, mail one. Immediately a tall, dark, balding man appeared at the end of his bed, shimmering ethereally. The huge figure leaned closer. Anderson had only a vague recognition of the man, whose face contorted as he screamed in a heavy Middle Eastern accent. "F*** you, Anderson. You're going down for this, I promise you that." The man bent down and picked up a baseball bat, raised it over his head and screamed a deafening war cry. Yeah! La, stop 3D mail. The man's image disappeared. Anderson pulled his pudgy body out of the bed, his heart racing. What the hell was that all about? Who was that? Then it came to him. Fahim Ahmad, Saudi Arabia, about 10 years prior. Ahmad had more hair then, who didn't, but it was him for sure. They'd done a deal with mobile app software, but he hadn't seen the guy since. What was he so pissed about? Anderson forced himself to breathe deeply. This was not the beginning to his day that he needed. After quickly washing his face and changing his shirt, Anderson sat at his desk and relaxed a little. La, mail 2. No 3D, thanks. He looked up at the big screen in front of him. It was from Kurt Chang, his old boss from Xavier Connections. He'd worked there for 3 whole years back in the late 30s, a company record. Chang didn't even bother to show his face. The words were written in bold red on a black background. Good to finally know the truth, you asshole. Hope you got a good lawyer, or 10. You might like to get your butt cheeks sewn closed before you go away. I hear they like white guys on the inside, especially little fat ones. For a moment Anderson could not breathe, and his shoulder blade stiffened. 1,000 paranoid thoughts ran through his mind. The Nawaz deal? The Riyadh fiasco? Gigi, his first wife? No, they couldn't know. Surely. Anderson stood up and walked over to the screen. There were 247 new mails. That was more than twice the usual number. He scanned the mail titles, barely believing what he was reading. There were 6 death threats on the first page alone. His eyes fell upon one name, his longtime colleague, Joe Lona. There was no mail title. La, mail 26. The screen flickered and 5 words in huge black capitals filled the entire wall. Take flight, all is revealed. What the? Anderson paced for a moment. La, video mail to Joe Lona. He turned to face the camera at the top of the screen. Joe, what the hell is going on? Call me now. Are you okay? Anderson walked over to the window and looked out over the bleak suburban Shanghai landscape. Squalid grey low-rises were barely visible in the foreground against the dreary skyline. Just for a moment, in the dimness caused by the haze, He caught sight of his unkempt reflection. He shuddered. A soft bing alerted him to an incoming call. "La, who is it?" "Joe Lona, Hondex Mob." "Shut up, La. Receive call." The face of a man in late middle age with unnaturally dark hair appeared on the screen. He looked concerned. "Joe, tell me what's going on for Christ's sake." "You don't know? What have you been doing for the last 4 hours? Screwing around on Bluetooth? Jesus, I hope not. For your sake." "I've been sleeping. I had a late night." "Sleeping on Judgment Day. That's rich." "I don't understand." "Look, we can't talk here. They can see everything we do online. Everything." "They? Read the paper for God's sake. Then meet me at the park in 1 hour sharp. We can talk there. Don't tell this to anyone. And cover your face." The line went dead. Joe Lona vanished. Anderson stood there staring at the smiling red dragon of the China Connect logo. F*** the Chinese. Anderson sat at his desk and popped out his keyboard. "La, open the Times." In less than a second, the newspaper's front page was splashed across his wall. Chaos. Information terror as net IDs go public. Global information systems are in chaos today, following what analysts are calling the worst case of information terror in history. The radical libertarian group Free Think has claimed responsibility for breaching the global net ID infrastructure. At present, websites and personal internet accounts worldwide can be accessed using a universal code. For legal reasons, the Times cannot publish the code, though it is reportedly circulating widely online. In related developments, unconfirmed reports suggest that World President Lee Jong-un has gone into hiding. A squat-looking man in a child's black superhero suit passed through the gates of Ouyang Park, not far from downtown Shanghai. If this had been any normal day, he would have attracted stares. But January 21st, 2047 was no ordinary day, and people had other things on their minds. The costume man passed several other individuals, wearing surgical masks, dark glasses, and overly large hats of various kinds. The Cape figure walked up to the large fish pond in the centre of the park, spotted what looked to be an unusually tall Muslim woman with a hijab pulled tightly over her face, and went straight to her. The veiled figure spoke first. "Hugh, is that you?" "Yes, who else could it possibly be?" "Good God, man, why didn't you just wear a gimp suit? It would probably attract less attention." "I don't do kinky." "No, you merely love bustier according to your search history on Bluetooth. I checked you out. The Chinese will love knowing that." "What? How did you?" Anderson's face was sweating profusely under the black face covering. A sudden sense of despair overcame him. "My God, I'm f***ed." He put his head in his hands and began to sob. 30 years of work, all for nothing, all gone. He stood there like a dishevelled, forlorn comic book character. He began to pull at his face covering. "No, keep it on, Hugh. This is China. There are cameras everywhere. The second your whereabouts is known, they will come for you. They know about the Riyadh deal." "Riyadh! I knew it as soon as Ahmed mailed me. They'll know that the bid from High Court was faked by us. We shortchanged the Chinese 15 billion at least on that one. We'll never get out of the country alive." Joe Lona's eyes shifted uneasily under his hijab. "It gets worse. Everything you've ever done on the net is now traceable by anyone. Even the stuff you wrote anonymously on chat forums and kinky adult websites. Everything." "How is that even possible?" "Every computer you have ever bought is linked to your net ID. Every time you've ever used your credit card online, done online banking, or registered for some community or chat site, that information has been indirectly stored in the cloud and on servers. Freethink have been able to access all that data and link it back to your net ID and make it accessible via web searches. Now all anyone has to do is type in Hugh John Anderson with your net ID number and say China, and every foul-mouthed anonymous tirade you ever made about the revolting table manners of the Chinese on Huya comments boards shows up." "You know about those too?" "No, I was just saying hypothetically." "But I didn't even mean half that stuff. I was just ranting." "Of course. But you think the Chinese will believe that? After Riyadh?" Anderson paced backwards and forwards for half a minute or so, his superhero cape flapping annoyingly in the hot Shanghai breeze. Suddenly, he turned, pulled out his phone, and began tapping madly on the screen. "What about you, Joe?" He began to laugh nervously. "You're no saint. What can we dig up on you? You were in on the Riyadh deal too." His frenzied fingers worked the touch screen. Joe Lona, Bluetooth, Chinese. All he got was a message asking him to search again. Anderson stood there, blinking disbelievingly at his device. "That's right, Hugh. I'm dirt-free. I got a professional to wipe me clean from the web a few years back. Some of us saw this coming long ago." "Yes, but I know about Riyadh. There are others that know about it too." "Yes, that's why I made arrangements." "Arrangements? What kind of arrangements?" "I'd estimate you've got about 4 days, Hugh. The first 48 hours the Chinese will be busy covering their asses. The third day, they'll go after the Chinese big boys, the ones with trillions. By day 4, I reckon they'll be on to the foreigners, and that means you." Joe smiled calmly. "That gives you a bit of time, at least." "But what can I do? I can't leave the country. I'll never get out of the airport." "It's a good question, Joe. Try being invisible for a while." "Invisible? This is 2047. There is no invisible. And as of today, everybody officially knows everything." "Like God?" Joe looked at his watch and began to move away. "Sorry, got to go to the mosque for prayers. Good luck, Hugh." "You can't just leave me here, in the shit." "I think you're forgetting something, Hugh. As of today, you are officially God, a god amidst gods. You are on an equal playing field." He kept walking away, then turned at the last moment. "But just remember to keep all your phones and computers off, or you're f***ed." He chuckled and walked away, leaving Hugh Anderson standing in his budget superhero suit in the middle of Ouyang Park. Hugh Anderson had 4 days to find redemption. He had to remind himself that he was God, or perhaps a deity damned.